with an ERD conversion into an actual database in a RDBMS such as MySQL or Oracle, we come back full circle to the beginning of the class and our create table SQL statement. Some of the more advanced case tools or computer-aided software engineering tools will be able to automatically convert an ERD into SQL statement, but ER Assistant is not one of them. So what we want to talk about is a set of basic conversion rules, starting by rule number one, the entity rule. Okay, because we already had plenty of practice with data types, and because ER system does not have an automatic ERD to SQL conversion, I completed most of the water utilities create table code for you in a file called, I'll show you in the next slide, MySQL 6_01_W. WU creating tables, okay? And I've used extensively the final ERD diagram as well. So you might either keep the slide number 11 open or handy, or the last of the diagramming documents, ERD 6_05 finalizing diagram, right? Open and keep referring to it, as I will do myself. Okay, so again, the rule conversion rule number one is to basically convert each entity into a table. So we have a set of 6 tables, I believe, as shown on this slide. Okay, and it's actually more than that, but 5 basic one we expanded with the rate set, and then the generalization hierarchy and the employee table separately. So we have to create table statement. We need to create a table statement for each one of these guys, and since we did this, as I keep saying, a lot so far, we're not gonna completely recreate it. I'm going to use this file called MySQL 01 underscore W U underscore creating tables as a starting point. Okay, so let's switch to the lectures folder, in my case slides and videos. Right click on that and open it in Notepad. Okay, so what I'm going to do is then ask you to just sort of go through this with me and enter first all the primary keys, unless they're already there. Most of them will have integer data type, but do not enter the foreign keys just yet. That's going to be coming up next. So first, the set of foreign keys to implement the entities and the conversion rule number one. And once we get back to the presentation and briefly discuss conversion rule number two, which is obviously adding the relationship, and then we'll add slowly those foreign keys one by one as well. Okay, so let me sort of get to it and start with the customer table. Okay, so looking at the ERD for this guy. Okay, looking at the ERD, and I gotta bring that one into view for myself on my other monitor. Okay, okay, it takes me a little bit to get there. Okay, we'll start with a customer table, and you'll note that a primary key cust number is already in there, so that one's fine. Now the commercial and residential subtype or child tables in this generalized hierarchy shown on final ERD, all right, need primary keys as well, and they are inherited essentially from the parent table. Okay, nevertheless, okay, these guys here have to be specified, and they'll essentially become both primary and the foreign key at the same time. We'll start with the primary key, and we'll start with a constraint. Okay, PK commercial. Okay, primary key. Okay, and it's called cust number. Okay, and this is this cust number over here, and a very similar constraint down here, PK residential, is going to be primary key for that table. Okay, all right, save. Next, we're going to move into the rate set table and check that one out on both creates table as well as on the final ERD, and note that rate set number is our primary key, and that's already been defined, so that one's fine. Okay, slide down to the rate table itself. Okay, the rate table has sort of a compound primary key, as was discussed a couple of recordings ago. That's a rate set number from from the rate set table, and then the minimum usage from the rate table. That is what makes the rate table a weak entity, because its primary key, which is a combination of these two fields, all right, derives a portion of it. That's the portion from the strong entity called, in this case, rate set. So that's what makes it weak, and that's what makes relationship, which we'll come to in the next recording, an identifying relationship. So for now, we're only dealing with primary keys. So we'll go constraint pk rate. Okay, it's going to be primary key, and it will combine rate set number, comma, min usage as a compound key. Okay, we'll save that. Move to the next table. Again, both looking at the final ERD as well as the code here. For the meter table, the meter number is the primary key, and it's already specified, so we're good with that one. What's next? The next is the reading table. Next is the reading table, where read number, okay, is its primary key. Okay, and if you switch briefly or quickly to the final ERD, you will notice that that's sort of at a confluence of several relationships. So that this is going to be loaded with foreign keys in the next recording. Switching to the final two, we got the bill with the bill number as the primary key, and then employee with the EMP number as the primary key, and both are all set. Okay, so at this point, what we'll do is switch back to the water utility final ERD. It'll double check that all the primary keys were set. Okay, I haven't included them over here, but they have to be implicitly included, and they'll also become, as I said, foreign keys, the customer number in both of these subtype tables: bill number, read number, EMP number. Okay, and then just quickly recap the fact that we went through the basic conversion rule number 1, entity rule, but each entity becomes a table. Okay, the strong entity primary key becomes primary key of the table. All right, the attributes of the entity become columns. The rule should be used before, obviously, the relationship rule is looked into. Okay, and here we've shown how actually implement it in this SQL script. Okay, so let's see, we made the comparison between ERD and SQL files numerous times. Okay, you already talked about it would have been nice if this was all done simply automatically, but it's not. Okay, so the next step is going to be the basic conversion rule number 2, converting relationships by creating a bunch of foreign keys, and that's going to be the topic of the next recording.